Before dawn, Israelis began gathering in Tel Aviv's Hostages Square. For 2 years and 1 week, the families and friends of those kidnapped on October 7th have gathered here to keep their loved ones at the forefront of minds. Under the terms of the deal, the final 20 living hostages of the 250 kidnapped by Hamas will be released. The remains of 28 others who haven't survived will also be returned. In exchange, Israel will release 250 Palestinian prisoners and more than 1,700 detainees. At 8 a.m. local time, the exchange began. An initial group of 7 Israeli hostages were handed over to the Red Cross near Khan Yunis. A condition of this deal being Hamas didn't engage in the kind of pageantry it displayed on previous releases. On the other side of the border, close family gathered at an Israeli military base to receive them. IDF helicopters were on standby to fly those requiring urgent medical treatment to hospital. After 738 days of waiting, finally contact via video calls. Then the moment when they were finally able to hold their loved ones again, prompting huge cheers from the crowds in Tel Aviv. Meanwhile, the man many Israelis credit with making this all possible, flying in on Air Force One. President Trump is being greeted with a hero's welcome here, his image being adorned from billboards and posters. Waiting for him on the tarmac, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, now deeply unpopular in Israel, blamed for security failings allowing Hamas's attack and for prolonging this war unnecessarily for his own political interests at the expense of the hostages. Trump's exasperation with and pressure on Netanyahu is seen as the reason this deal has finally been done. Publicly, though, the pair greeted each other warmly before riding in the president's motorcade to Jerusalem for Trump to address Israel's parliament, the Knesset, and to meet some of the hostages' families. Just before 10 a.m, Red Cross vehicles collected the 13 remaining hostages from Gaza City. An hour later, and the first buses carrying Palestinian prisoners began arriving in Ramallah, the de facto Palestinian capital of the occupied West Bank. Friends and relatives are uncertain who will actually be coming off these buses, with Israel removing and updating names on the list over the weekend. There was weeping and screams of joy for those reunited. Many of those freed were serving life sentences after being convicted by Israeli courts of crimes including murder. Some looked gaunt and even injured, raising concerns about the conditions they've experienced in Israeli prisons. In Jerusalem, Trump was greeted with rapturous applause before becoming only the 4th US president to address the Knesset since it was created in 1949.
And after so many years of unceasing war and endless danger, today the skies are calm, the guns are silent, the sirens are still, and the sun rises on a holy land that is finally at peace, a land and a region that will live, God willing, in peace for all eternity.
Trump is being awarded this country's highest civilian award, the Israeli Presidential Medal of Honor. Prime Minister Netanyahu, facing elections next year, is keen to try and share in the glory.
Mr. President, you are committed to this peace. I am committed to this peace. And together, Mr. President, we will achieve this peace.
Trump will fly on to Egypt now to join talks about the rest of his peace plan, the bulk of which has still not been agreed, including, crucially, who will run Gaza after Hamas. Some hostage remains have now been returned from Gaza to the families. For them, a bittersweet day, bringing only closure on their way to give them a dignified burial. For the hostages, basking in the joy of being free and reunited with their loved ones, a long road of recovery begins. This is certainly the end of a chapter for both Palestinians and Israelis, but what happens next depends on whether Trump's attention extends beyond the showy, made-for-TV moments to the hard detail and graft of how these two peoples get back on the road to a lasting two-state solution. Well, joining us now is Gideon Levy, a columnist for the liberal Israeli newspaper Haaretz. Gideon, thank you for speaking to us. Firstly, what's your reaction to the scenes we've witnessed this morning?
It's a mixture. First of all, obviously, there is this real happiness to see families get united, hostages get released. I mean, what is touching more than this, and what makes you happy more than this? But I can't avoid thinking about the day after, so to say. What comes next? And here the picture is much less promising.
Do you think outside audiences truly understand how significant getting all these hostages back finally is for Israelis?
I'm not sure, because in Israel this became really almost a religious ritual, namely caring about them for 2 years. People didn't sleep at night, people who don't even know them personally. People put posters of their photos in their homes, in their bedrooms, in the children's room. I mean, it became a whole huge myth. And now comes the real moment of happiness and joy for almost every Israeli. It's a very much Israeli. I mean, I'm not sure every people would have celebrated the release of 20 people. Let's remember the Palestinians are releasing today almost 2,000 people. The Israelis are releasing only 20. I mean, getting back only 20. But the national sentiment was very deep toward their release, and here it comes.
Well, on that point, how are Israelis feeling about the huge number of Palestinian prisoners, some convicted even of murder, serving life sentences, they've had to release in exchange for those 20?
I think right now it's quite in the shadow, because really everyone is focused about what Israel is getting in return. And you know, when you speak about those who are released, don't forget that almost all of them served already dozens of years in jail and in very hard and tough conditions. So most of the Israelis, there are some Israelis who are very irritated by this, but I guess most of the Israelis are quite indifferent because of the joy of the return of the Israeli hostages. And there are some people like me that are also, or even a little happy for the release, at least of some of them who didn't pass to them, never faced any legal procedure. Those 1,500 or 1,800 detainees from Gaza never faced a legal procedure. So I'm really happy that they are released.
President Trump has been greeted with a hero's welcome there in Israel for all the criticism he faces. Could today have happened without him, do you think?
No way, no way. He deserves all the credit. He doesn't deserve all this embarrassing fluttering that went on in the Israeli parliament. It was quite embarrassing to see one after the other, one speaker after the other flutters him and flutters him. I mean, with all the respect, if you hear those speeches, you get the impression that he's the greatest human being ever. Let's keep some proportions. But no doubt that without his pressure over Netanyahu, nothing of all this would have happened.
Yeah, he's not one for humble modesty, and already he's claiming to have brought peace to the whole of the Middle East. But there's a lot still to be sorted with this deal, isn't there, come tomorrow?
So much. I mean, and no question is really answered right now. Big words, big speeches, big promises, but nothing behind it. Maybe, I don't want to exclude it. Maybe Trump, being so happy about all the credit he gets, will continue with this pressure. Would he really be devoted? He might achieve more. But would he lose interest in 1 or 2 weeks after the first difficulties will arise? Then we are doomed to get back to the same reality that we know for the last decades.
Yeah, he likes these sort of grand made-for-TV moments, doesn't he? In terms of where the talks go now, what are the priorities?
The big question is, first of all, who is going to run Gaza? I mean, if Israel will pull out, hopefully it will, who is going to govern Gaza? Who is going to take care of this unbelievable project? I'm not sure that people are aware. to the scale of the project of rehabilitating Gaza, rebuilding Gaza. It's an unlivable place. Israel totally destroyed it. Someone has to take responsibility and money, obviously, to start to rebuild it, to rehabilitate 2.3 million people who went through those horrible, horrible nightmare of 2 years of starvation, of bombarding, of losing their family members. I mean, the challenges are so big and the speeches are so hollow. I hope that Donald Trump will be devoted enough, and after him also some other leaders in the world.
And on that point, the infrastructure mostly destroyed. Recent satellite imagery studies saying as many as 200,000 buildings damaged and destroyed. It is going to be an operation that lasts not years, but decades. Who, in Israelis' minds, is responsible for funding and overseeing all that reconstruction now?
I can tell you who isn't. Israel. Israel will not take any responsibility for this, and for sure not compensate anyone for this, even though Israel should be the first one to compensate for this destruction, because Israel committed. But this is off the table. I guess the hope is that the rich Arab countries will recruit themselves, but the question is, and Europe, but the question is, are they ready to rehabilitate Gaza every 5 years? And then Israel comes and destruct even more than last time? I mean, are they really the cashier of the destruction of Israel? I doubt it. There must be some kind of guarantees that this will never happen again.
Prime Minister Netanyahu is trying to pull some of the glory away from President Trump. He's deeply unpopular in Israel, not only for the security failings that brought about October the 7th, but many accuse him of prolonging this war for his own political interests at the expense of hostages. We know he's not going to follow Trump to Sharm el-Sheikh this afternoon for these talks. He's facing elections next year. How much trouble is he in now?
Still in trouble. I guess his popularity raised a little bit after the release of hostages, even though most of Israelis give the full credit and the exclusive credit to Donald Trump, and rightly so. If it would be up to Netanyahu, this wouldn't have happened. We have to say it clearly. Netanyahu was not interested in this deal. It was imposed on him, and once it was imposed on him, he went through it. But he doesn't deserve any credit here, because the same deal with the same conditions could have taken place 1 year ago, and so many lives, both Palestinians and Israelis, could have been saved. But, you know, he is a magician when it comes to domestic politics, and I wouldn't exclude the possibility that he will be re-elected, even though I must tell you all the polls, but really all the polls show that he is going to be defeated.
And finally, the rest of this deal that needs to be sorted out. I mean, if you were going to put it on a sort of probability, bearing in mind you do have those elections on the horizon for Netanyahu, I mean, how likely is it that maybe by the end of this year, the end of next year, that the rest of that deal has been worked out and the process of reconstruction and governing Gaza effectively is in place?
Unfortunately, in my best dreams, I don't see it happening. But you know, I wish, I pray I'll be wrong. I'm skeptical because I saw those promises so many times in the past. And I don't see the good intention of Israel really to open a new chapter. This doesn't exist. I don't see a new chapter in Israel, namely realizing that there is another people here who deserve the same rights like the Jews in Israel. I don't see it happening. And therefore, I'm very, very skeptical. But you know, miracles do happen, so we have to be realistic enough to believe in miracles.
Gideon Levy, thank you very much.
Thank you for having me.